Time we got to get straight out. We're hearing from Kyle Rittenhouse's lawyers. Let's listen.
What he feels.
Mark, along those lines, where does he go from here?
He has to get on with his life the best he can. I think eventually some anonymity will come back to it. I don't think he'll continue to live in this area. I think it's too dangerous. He's had 24-hour security since this happened. We're thankful that the judge protected his address. Everybody in this case, and when I say that, I mean prosecution, defense. To me, it's scary how many death threats we've had. You know, I was answering my phone on the way back from court in Kenosha. My office isn't that far. After the third death threat, I quit answering the phone.
And Mark, what do you say to people who made most of this verdict who still think that he had no business being in Kenosha? What do you say to the people who are...
He had as much business being there as any of the demonstrators or the rioters. That's all I can say. I mean, there's going to be people who will never agree with that statement, but you know, if we all would just mind our own business a little bit, I think we'd all be better off. And it's a hard lesson to learn, but
couldn't that have been said about Kyle?
It could be. He was asked to be there. He wanted to help the community, and you know, that's the narrative that the state went with. He shouldn't have been there. He was asked to be there by Nick and Dominic. And the Kandiri brothers wanted security. And, you know, I'm not trying to blame anyone. I wish he had never been separated from Ryan Balch, and we wouldn't be here.
Does he regret coming here to Kenosha?
I don't believe he does. I mean, you know, if he had to do it all over again and you said same thing is going to happen and life is going to be put in a living hell for a year and you're going to not know if you're going to be a free man, he would say, I wouldn't go. But we can't undo time.
Mark, the president was just asked about the verdict. He says, I stand by what the jury has to say. The jury system works. Your response?
And I'm not laughing at President Biden. What I'm laughing at is a friend of mine who's a lawyer said, he goes, and him and I had done a big case together 7-8 years ago. And he said, do you think this Rittenhouse is going to be bigger than that case? And I said, you know, I do. And he said, why do you say that? And I said, I've never had a case, and I don't think I ever will, where within 2 days or 3 days of one another, you know, the president and the presidential candidate comment on it. And both of them had such different beliefs. President Biden said some things that I think are so incorrect and untrue. He's not a white supremacist. I'm glad that he at least respects the jury verdict. And if the government had any information regarding his cell phone or anything, that he had been to any of those websites or been online doing that kind of stuff, it would have been introduced in evidence. It wasn't. We were the individuals who released his cell phone, which couldn't be cracked by the FBI because we had nothing to hide.
For those of us that got here a little bit late, can you just kind of reiterate or go over his reaction immediately after?
No, I'm not doing reruns.
In any civil actions?
What's that?
Do you plan to represent him in civil actions?
I'm a criminal defense attorney. I don't do civil stuff.
You're a veteran criminal defense attorney. Talk about what's the one thing you learned.
Okay, folks, your job is done. And
every case is different, and every case has surprises. You know, hey, I learned I could wait 24 hours for a verdict.
What about what happened to the $2 million bond?
I suspect there will be a fight over that. You know, John Pierce is the person who posted the bond. All of that money was raised on behalf of Kyle. Lynn Wood and Fight Back say that they're entitled to it. There was, and when I'm using round numbers, but there was $500,000, I think, that came directly from Wendy Rittenhouse from money she had raised. So there's going to be a fight over that, and I'm just thankful that there will be a fight over that, because if he had lost, it wouldn't have mattered.
You know, Kyle had aspirations to be a first responder. Is that still...
He wants to be a nurse.
Still wants to be a nurse.
What would you say your biggest takeaway is from this 28 75-plus hour jury deliberation. What do you think that says?
I need to be more patient.
Now that he has been acquitted, can you look back and point to a pivotal moment that was successful for you, that you think created this outcome?
Getting rid of the first two lawyers. And, that might be a smart alecky comment, but I mean that. And I got my best friend, Corey, to join, who I trust. And to be able to work with somebody who you don't have to check their work, you don't worry about what they're going to be doing, you give them a project and it's done as good or better as you do yourself, it's priceless.
There's been a lot of commentary on the prosecutor's performance in this case. What would you say being up there with him every day?
You must have got here a little bit late. I've known Tom Binger for a long time. I knew him when he was a civil lawyer. I'm disappointed with some of the things he did, and I've said why.
Such as what?
Putting on the Kandiri brothers when you know they're lying. Changing your prosecution, going with provocation after you say that my client chased him down and shot him in the back. Calling him an active shooter when he's not. Justice is done when the truth is reached, and I don't know that it's set up to do that, but a prosecutor is supposed to seek the truth. It's not about winning, and this case became about winning, and that's probably why it got so personal.
How about the judge? What do you say about how the judge handled the case?
I've never seen so much made of so little, and that's not to pick on you guys or anything like that, but I've tried cases as a prosecutor 100 years ago in front of Judge Schrader. I've tried cases as a defense lawyer, and him and I butted heads as a defense lawyer. Judge Schrader gives you a fair trial as a defendant. You don't want him to sentence your client, okay? But in this case, we were looking for a fair trial, and if we lost, we knew what was going to happen. So it wouldn't have mattered whether it was that judge or some other judge. He's getting life in prison. So I'd rather have a fair trial. I thought he gave us a fair trial. Everybody got all crazy about the tumbler. Who cares? That has nothing to do with this. I mean, I've seen the tumbler used before. I've seen clerks pull things out and suspicious things happen. Kyle pulled it out. And I'll be real honest. We had every juror scored on a sheet, and we were devastated when those 3 of the 6 jurors were separated from the panel because we thought they were 3 of our strongest jurors, and Kyle pulled their names. So I think it's a good system. I've got a trial in front of him, a big case, and maybe in that one I'll think he's unfair, but he's a fair judge.
But he also said something about, in the future, he plans on rethinking the possibility of live coverage to this extent. Given what you guys have gone through, he mentioned that you guys went through a lot, there were threats made to you. What do you think that should be going forward, setting a precedent about?
I don't know about that. I think that I've never done a case that was televised gavel to gavel. I've had cases that have gotten media coverage. I was kind of, I knew this case was big. I had no idea it was going to be this big. I mean, I've gotten calls from people I haven't seen in 25 years. It's just bizarre. And I'll never be able to figure out exactly what it is that caused the interest that it did. I don't think it made the attorneys act different. I don't think it made the judge act different. I suspect when everything cools down, if there was another big case in front of Judge Schrader, he'd let the cameras in.
Mark, will Kyle say anything to the crowd that's gathering down there now, you on his behalf? We don't know that there'll be trouble, but there's people gathering. By the time we left, there were more and more people showing up. Do you think anything he might say could make things go better than before?
I don't. The people who are going to end up causing trouble, they don't want to hear from Kyle Rittenhouse. It's remain calm.
What do you think the wider implications of this verdict are?
I don't, you know, I don't think it's that kind of case. I mean, you know, when you want to talk about implications and precedent and things like that, is it ever going to happen again? You know, is there ever going to be just a total unrest in Kenosha or some other city, and that's going to happen? You know, I just don't see that. It was a case about self-defense, the right to protect oneself from, you know, Mr. Rosenbaum. Don't want to speak ill of the dead, but he wasn't a nice person, and everybody knows why. And a lot of that didn't come in front of the jury. So I don't know that there's any broader implications. I don't want to make it bigger than it is.
A couple politicians in Wisconsin have used the word vigilante to refer to your client since the verdict came down. How do you react to that?
Maybe they should have watched the trial. Yeah.
I know Kyle Rittenhouse said thank you to you. You said that after the verdict was read. Can you share any more about general reaction from him or his family in that moment?
You know, it's one of those things that anything that's said at this time is kind of meaningless. We have to take it in, reflect on it, and, you know, what's he thanking me for? And I don't mean that it's insincere, but it takes a while to process what happened today. I haven't processed it.
Will he and his family stay in Wisconsin?
I don't think I can't answer that question. If I had to guess, and it would be a guess, I don't think they'll stay in Wisconsin.
What's next for you?
I got a trial in a week. I'm going to take a couple of days off and go to the Badger game tomorrow, which I've missed.
Jump around.
Hopefully. I've missed a couple of Badger games because of this trial, and I'm very much. We were afraid we weren't going to get to go because they were going to have them deliberate on Saturday, and I want to see them beat Nebraska.
Do you have any sense that they agreed to those verdicts much earlier, but maybe just took some extra time to at least leave the impression they really thought through it? It wasn't a quick, sudden decision.
I don't believe that. Yeah, I don't believe that. I mean, there was the questions, and I think I said this to some people yesterday when they asked to call off at 4 o'clock. You could see the tenseness in those people, the jurors. At least I could, or I sensed it, who were entering that room, and you know, if they wanted to quit early because I think they were tense, and if there was some early verdict and they were playing all of us for fools, they're great actors and actresses. I don't think that was the case.
Are you
What do you
going to
think
keep in
about the
touch
amount
with the
of time?
Rittenhouse family?
I believe so. I have clients from 30 years ago I still talk to. I get one of my oldest favorite clients. He moved out of Racine, moved to Minneapolis. He texted me congratulations. I talk to him once a month. I try to stay in touch with clients who want to stay in touch with me. I like to see him do well, and I hope that Kyle does.
Do you think that they'll keep a low profile?
I hope so.
What do you think the amount of time that the jury took to do this says about how they handled this?
They took it very seriously. As I said, it's the longest jury I've ever had out. Wow. Can I go home?
Go home. Anything else we haven't asked you?
Mark, do you think